lack of music. Arf, arf, little girl, little baby. Cleo, I'll get you a snack. Here, you have treats over here. There you go. See, you have a snack. Cleo, Cleo, my goodness. Here you go, little girl. Woof. There you go. There, some extra just for you. Hi everyone. I'm tired, truth be told. I'm tired. I'm a little hungry, not too hungry. I did eat something though, so that's not bad. I ate oatmeal for the first time in a while. And really healthy. Well, it's a peanut butter and Nutella sandwich. Really good. Mom mixed some coleslaw salad for me. And sunflower seeds. And some olive oil. Very good stuff. Truth be told, Ramona is probably going to be done quicker than we realize. Sunset. This is a Fantasy Heat Set Effects paint. I think I'm just gonna do some a pink wash, obviously, and some touch-ups. And the blush, of course, in the red parts. Why not? Okay. Alright, so yeah. Look, man. I'm just really nervous, you know? I think we need the light red, actually. Is this the light red? I think that is. I think we'll do dark red and pure red. But first, let's do our pink sunset wash and see how well that turns out. Oh, sorry. Like I said, this is a really newborn baby. He's tiny. You can't. You were that? I don't think letting the brushes soak overnight when you put them in hot water is helpful. But hey, this one really isn't all that messed up compared to some of the other brushes I've used for gluing purposes, so I'm not too upset or mad about it. Is there glitter in this? I was not told there was gonna be fucking glitter. Okay. That doesn't seem too bad, honestly. Maybe we just need a really pink wash. A hot pink wash. I have a better color for that. We have Pure Red 03. Pure Red 05. We're gonna do the Pure Red 03. That'll give us the hot pink that we really want. It's way more orange than it does pink, but I don't know how to offset that. Pure Red 05. There we go. I think I see Red 07 in here. We have an 08. We have the Pure Red 08 in here. The lightest shade ever. There we go. So that's more like a really hot pink or warm pink. Where did I paint this on as a wash over the vinyl? restart it by accident? Okay. So I added a little extra red to that, and now it's a nice hot pink. Thunderstorms? I should plant something. I haven't done much of anything in the garden at all since like January. I feel really bad about that. Like I genuinely feel bad for not gardening this year. I tell myself I'll plant something, I'll do something, and then I end up not doing it, and it makes me really sad. At this point, it's like much ado about nothing, right? Also, my work schedule is going to change soon. I'll be going into work starting at 11 a.m. now. I think starting on the 11th. Theo, please. Actually, I think on second thought, this is actually bringing out some of that modeling. In the blush, so maybe I won't need to add extra on top of it. Honestly, I think once I complete this final wash, I'll be ready to start texturing the back of the head and maybe just, I don't know. Oh my god. I'm sorry, he will not be quiet. He always gets so pissy when I'm live. Well, I will have some treats out for her when she decides to come back. Okay, dude. Are you gonna take that to Chris's room? I don't know what she wants. If I give her some treats, will you take her?
I guess.
Come on, you. You gotta settle down. Be good for Chris, okay? Good. We now have a little time to ourselves. I'm just tired, man. I went shopping yesterday. I had made a sale on a doll that I painted. I sold Pepito, but unfortunately, it's gonna cost quite a bit to get them shipped. So I'm waiting until this Friday when I get paid to ship them out. I sold them for like almost $200. So I'm really proud of myself for that. I just need to hold on to that money. Um, because I think it'll be coming tomorrow. Need to make sure I don't make a lot of any ridiculous expenses. And just, keep on to it. Hold on to it until I get paid this Friday. Oh man. Hello? Okay, just bring your bowls and stuff in here. Okay. It's really good. I like that. Can't wait to bake this so then I can start adding shading to the back of the head. Maybe we'll do some final touch-up creases. I don't know. We might. here. I am 5 minutes away. Baby, yes. Baby, we are all too. Because what the fuck was this supposed to bring? Oh, baby, we are all. You. You destroyed. You know what? Maybe the creases are fine. I need to get this baby varnished. Okay. Maybe we don't need these, actually. That's cool. I don't know. Still want to touch it on the blush a bit. So I will probably do that. Okay. Hi, little girl. Hi, little girl. Hi, little girl. Chapter 7, The Age of Resistance. In the summer of 2015, a group of middle-aged and elderly black community members in Chicago announced they were going to wage a hunger strike. This, they said, was the only way left open for them to draw attention to their struggles with educational officials working with the Chicago public schools. Maybe, they hoped, publicly starving themselves will elicit a response from school administrators who, they said, ignored, disrespected, and denied them a governing voice in the education of their sons, daughters, grandchildren, and neighbors. Calling themselves the Coalition to Revitalize Diet High School, the 12 participants demanded that district administrators reopen a beloved neighborhood high school. It had been closed because of chronically low scores on standardized tests. A statement released by an advocacy nonprofit named the Network for Public Education made it clear that standardized tests were impacting education in Chicago beyond just the one school. It charged that in low-income communities of color, such tests were used to rank, sort, label, and punish black and Latino children. That though the exams were often extolled as a means to allow education officials to document racial and economic achievement gaps, they often instead became a justification for a larger agenda aimed at further destabilizing poor communities of color. A conclusion reached because thousands of predominantly poor and minority neighborhood schools, the anchors of communities, have been closed as a result of the scores. Surely those sentiments resonated with the hunger strikers, as according to one, the city has sabotaged our community, which we know is undergoing gentrification. Why would they close the only neighborhood high school left for our children? At the same time that the drama surrounding the Chicago high school was unfolding, groups of white and Asian parents and students were also responding quite forcefully to the ways that federally mandated tests circumscribed their lives. They were publicly protesting by joining in with what came to be known as the opt-out movement and beginning to take a stand to tell schools that their children will not take state and federally prescribed high-stakes tests. In the spring of 2015, New York State had one of the highest test refusal rates in the nation, with more than 20%. About 240,000 students opted not to take the state exams. The use, overuse, purpose, and practicality of testing has spawned a sustained movement in communities that were wealthy and in those that were poor, both educationally and economically. However, despite the testing being a common enemy, so to speak, against which both communities could organize, for students of color in failing schools, testing was just one of a number of concerns against which they began to organize. This chapter explores community activism and protests against educational policies and practices communities believe to be harmful to their educational futures. Across the country, those most impacted by socioeconomic dependent educational schemes and practices are raising their voices to push back. Some decry how tests are used to circumscribe their futures or impact the teachers and schools in their communities. Others direct their activism towards ending abusive disciplinary practices found in poor schools, though almost completely absent from those that are wealthy. In both instances, people whose lives are harmed by educational policies are finding ways to resist. In wealthy white communities, lessening the frequency of standardized tests is the goal of protest. In communities of color, in addition to decrying the frequency of tests, the conversation has expanded to include critiques of how tests are used to pave the way for school closures, shrinking education budgets, community destabilization, and abusive discipline practices in schools. For students, protesting is one of the very few ways in which they are able to add their voices to discussions about educational politics impacting their schools. Do standardized achievement tests unfairly advantage white, Asian, and wealthy students and disadvantage everyone else? According to a group of educational advocacy organizations and civil rights groups such as the NAACP and the Advancement Project, the answer is yes. In 2012, they jointly filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education pointing out that Black and Latino students in New York score below whites and Asians on standardized tests so consistently that although they are almost 70% of the overall student body in the system, they make up only 11% of students enrolled at elite public schools. As a result, the complaint argues that the New York City is in violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act because schools rely on a test that consistently advantages one racial group over another. Opinions differ as to why, on K 12 achievement tests and college entrance exams, lower income students as well as Black and Latino students consistently score below privileged white and Asian students. These gaps persist despite decades of research and numerous studies attempting to explain and close them. One theory posits that students with grandparents who have graduated from college always score higher, suggesting that the tests unfairly penalize students who are the first in their family to attend college. Whatever the explanation, it is difficult to reconcile why we rely on such tests when there is plenty of evidence showing that they heavily advantage some districts and students and greatly disadvantage others. While the standardized testing gap between people of color and whites and Asian Americans is bad, it's nothing compared to the gap between the poor and the wealthy. A 2014 study by the Annie E. Casey Foundation found that the gap for achievement test scores between rich and poor had grown by almost 60% between the 1960s and 2014 to be almost twice as large as the gap between white students and children of other races. The playing field is far from level when we continue to use tests that we know at the outset will show that wealthy students do better than less wealthy students and that white and Asian students outperform everyone else. But the research shows us that the issues are with how we use these tests. That is the history of standardized tests, which, according to Columbia University professor Nicholas Lemon's History of the Educational Testing Service, the big test, the secret history of American meritocracy, were first developed in the 1940s as a way to exclude Jewish students from Ivy League campuses. Kaplan, today one of the largest test preparation organizations, got its start when Stanley Kaplan resolved to come up with test-taking techniques to beat the test and ensure that such students did well in admissions to elite school. Today, acknowledging the inherent racial and economic inequality of standardized achievement tests, hundreds of colleges have already stopped requiring the SAT for college admission decisions. However, the same cannot be said for K 12, where scores on standardized tests are used for everything from admitting students to prestigious public schools to placing students in gifted programs, relegating them to remedial ones, allocating federal funding, evaluating teachers, and closing schools. In response, a growing number of parents, school boards, teachers, and civil rights organizations are beginning to question the fairness of our over-reliance on standardized tests. In 2014, over 300 groups, including the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, signed a petition to ask Congress to ban the use of such tests. Nothing came of the petition, and as a result, parents of students in low-income communities of color are more often than not left to their own devices when searching for the most productive path to protect themselves from the financial and economic consequences of high-stakes tests and the uses to which they are put. All of that stuff is so cute. They ask why is there not more money to fund proven methods that would help their children learn. They want to know why test scores are used to hurt their children, close their schools, and add to the instability in their communities. In the 21st century, standardized tests are key feature of how wealthy educational investors and school reformers ensured that highly racially and economically segregated apartheid school districts remain lucrative. This has been true since President Bush announced his intention to use them this way. At the 91st Annual National Association for the Advancement of Colored People Convention held in 2000, President George W. Bush announced what would almost amount to a declaration of war on unequal education and explained the necessity of using standardized tests as a primary tool in the nation's arsenal. Though he used no such phrasing as in his speech announcing No Child Left Behind, in many ways the bill's promise to devote the full resources of the United States government to the project of equalizing the racial and economic achievement and opportunity gaps in public education was, at the least, an acknowledgement of what it would take to accomplish such a feat. In addition to the bill shining a light on the ways that race and poverty shape educational outcomes, it introduced standardized testing as a key component of how communities of color might actually achieve educational equality. But before focusing specifically on the test, Bush began his remarks by acknowledging that there was a tense history between the Republican Party and organizations focused on black freedom. But he said, for our nation, there is no denying the truth that slavery is a blight in our history and that racism, despite all the progress, still exists today. For my party, there is no escaping the reality that the party of Lincoln has not always carried the mantle of Lincoln. Transcending our history is essential. Such a sweet baby. It sucks I couldn't afford one. The president went on to tell the assembled group that it was time that the nation, in a nod toward such transcendence, made a new commitment to those who found themselves living in what he called prosperity's shadow. He added, the purpose of prosperity is to ensure the American dream touches every willing heart. We cannot afford to have an America segregated by class, by race, or by aspiration. As he called on America to close the gap of hope between communities of prosperity and communities of poverty, the audience rose to applaud. As he extolled the efforts of previous generations of men and women once victimized by Jim Crow, who have risen to leadership in the halls of Congress, they cheered. When he acknowledged that we have to do more to enforce civil rights and pledged that his administration would do so because he said, today, instead of separate but equal, there is separate and forgotten. The group erupted in full-throated and appreciative affirmation. Finally, he got to his point in the oft-quoted tagline of the speech. He said that we had to confront another form of bias, the soft bigotry of low expectations. With that pronouncement, the president pivoted to his core concerns for the day, the fact that poor children who are also black and Latino are not as well served by our nation's educational system. In particular, he noted that there then existed a tremendous gap of achievement between rich and poor, white and minority, in a form of discrimination that provoked a group of Americans, imprisoned by illiteracy, abandoned to frustration and the darkness of self-doubt. He announced that he was linking the unfinished struggle for civil rights to the unfinished struggle for educational equality and making a commitment to hold the nation accountable for ending the centuries of educational inequality that had so long existed. He pledged to call out those educators who failed our nation's youth and to also provide parents with a broader array of educational choices. Testing was central to this plan as objective criteria and tools, he said, were the most powerful, potent weapon we had to finally turn the educational tide towards justice. He added, all students must be measured. We must test to know. In low-performing schools, those schools that won't teach and won't change will have 3 years to produce results, 3 years to meet standards, and 3 years to make sure the very faces of our future are not mired in mediocrity. And if they are unable to do so, the resources must go to the parents so that parents can make a different choice. Education helps still young, and empowerment lifts the able. Interesting. Okay, well, this is dry now, I believe. Oh! Jeez. Okay. Where are the sponges right here? maybe 6 months ago, you might have a case. You might. This is Doll Kit's reddish purple modeling number 2. We'll see if that's helpful or not. Listen, this. Okay, this is actually really good. I like that. Just a little touch went a long way. Let's start here. Everything's blending and coming together. That's really beautiful. Me. Okay, this is awesome. I love you, okay? I love you so much, Cleo. I'm just trying to do stuff. Look at these treats. You don't want these? We're spoiled here. Spoiled brat. Spoiled brat. I guess she kind of prefers that like free stuff. I don't know. Cleo's preferences are kind of picky. Sit. Good. Stay. 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 Sit. Sit. Stay. Sit. Stay. Stay. Eat. Yeah, sorry. I'm honestly ready to let this all quote unquote dry out and then bake it all at once. Um, these are a lot of effects and stuff to put on one kit at a time. We will definitely do another blending layer. And it'll be mostly for the skin as opposed to the hands and the feet. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm gonna look for something to eat. When I come back, I'll read a bit and then we can bake this. Hello? Oh no, okay. I did do this one as well. Yeah, I did. I did. Okay, good. So we're gonna let stuff cook for a bit. You know, there is nothing to do downstairs. They're literally just cleaning up. Do you really want to leave some room? Yeah. I just need her to be quiet. Cleo, no, they're cleaning. They're quite literally trying to clean stuff. Okay, so I don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. I might use this to build up the brow shading area. But yeah, you know, I feel like I'm pretty much done with most of these. Sorry, y'all, I'm just trying to clean this up. Please. Oh. So, I'm tired, but I think we're ready to bake this now. Plug this. Cleo, Cleo, please. I think I'm gonna move this. So after we bake, it's gonna need some time to cool down. And I'm gonna use the fan, but also, you know. President Bush linked the new No Child Left Behind bill with parental empowerment and the politically popular and financially lucrative school choice movement. Not only would tests alert educational officials to yawning gaps between students based on race and economics, but they would also be responsible for determining which schools would remain open, which testing companies should be hired, and whether districts needed to spend the money to hire outside consultants. By 2008, President Obama upped the testing stakes with the institution of another educational bill called Race to the Top. That bill opened the door to the use of testing to evaluate and potentially fire teachers and to hold them personally responsible for the shortcomings of their students. Oh, wow. It is doubtful that either president could have imagined that by 2015, parents and students, suburban and urban, white, Asian, and black, both the middle class and poor, those who had choices as to where their children attend school, and those who did not, would rise up to rigorously protest both the amount and uses of testing. For some parents, the issue was the individual well-being of their children. For others, it was the way that tests led to school closures and created an environment rife with harsh disciplinary practices. Some parents decried the efforts to distill the essence of learning down to an easily manageable test scores, while others complained of undue stress and strain such put has put on the still forming psyches of young children. Cleo. Cleo, please. I'm trying to get stuff done. I'm trying to read. I'm trying to paint. Do you want to go downstairs? Is that it? Okay. I will take you downstairs, but please just behave. I can't leave this without supervision. my mom. Okay, let's bake Ramon. I'm sorry. A snack or a video or a fan. We will set the bottle aside. That's nice. Explore Pride at Microsoft. That's a funny video. Oh. Lucy Zhao, what an interesting artist. Some oppose the very idea that a test, a snapshot of performance on one day, could come to shape the future of an individual, an entire school, a whole neighborhood. Far from the first or only action that those fed up with the over-reliance on testing cited, an opening salvo in the developing battle took place in November 2013. Far from the first or only action that those fed up with the over-reliance on testing cited, an opening salvo in the developing battle took place in November 2013. The Secretary of Education at the time, Arne Duncan, ignited a firestorm of protest when he told a gathering of the Council of Chief State School Officers that he believed wanted to push back against the administration's imposition of a new round of mandatory tests called the Common Core was occurring because white suburban moms are discovering that their children are not as brilliant as they thought, and their schools are not as good as they thought. Jesus Christ, man. I'm not gonna hear the truth of that, but goodness gracious. Who in the world is Arne Duncan? A-R-N-E. That's some cracker. While he apologized for the remark within a day or so, the white suburban-led organized resistance to over-testing has continued to grow, and it's not just parents who are concerned and pushing back against what they believe to be burdensome levels of testing. Students have joined the fray as well. In 2015, over 100 students in Bloomington, Indiana staged a walkout from their classes to protest their fatigue with the regime of standardized testing. Instead of attending school that day, One of the organizers, Ann Kirstein, planned a screening of a film called Listen. A feature-length documentary, he said, shows that behind every one of those test scores is a living, breathing child who has dreams and aspirations that may or may not align with what's being measured on standardized tests. Between 2014 and 2016, parents and students alike organized similar walkouts, protests, and demonstrations in communities from Maryland to Massachusetts. In some schools in California, in 2015, over 50% of students opted out of standardized tests. On the whole, parents and students who opt out of standardized tests are white or Asian and range from middle class to wealthy. State legislators, as well as the federal government, are responsive to these constituents. According to an article on CNN's website, in 2015, New Jersey lawmakers approved a measure requiring schools to accommodate parents who opt out of testing by providing alternative activities such as independent reading for their children. Also in 2015, in Indiana, the state superintendent recommended that parents homeschool their children during the testing weeks instead of having them take the test. However, in perhaps the most significant endorsement of their concerns, in October 2015, President Obama posted a video message to Facebook calling for schools to reduce the amount of standardized testing taking place in classrooms. The response to complaints coming from communities of color about testing in particular, or education in general, is not always as positive, nor are those communities' educational concerns solely about the tests themselves. Instead, for Black and Latino students in underfunded districts, student activism often revolves around the use of high-stakes testing to dismantle their public schools, and also includes a focus on how they are harshly disciplined in schools and classrooms. In her award-winning book, Unequal City, Race, Schools, and Perceptions of Injustice, educational sociologist Carla Shedd points out that many of us who are educators, researchers, politicians, and cultural critics spend little time talking to as opposed to about young people when doing work on topics that impact that demographic. She says, teenagers have remarkable vantage points on the cities they live in, not only on how their city functions, but also on how it does not. They are a walking experiment in the effects that city agencies, in this case the Board of Education and the city policing apparatus, can have on a generation of people who are especially vulnerable and may even be harmed by the policies and procedures that seek to ensure their safety. It is long past time to let their voices be heard. Okay. Let's check the oven and see if it's ready to bake Ramon. when we listen to the concerns of students educated in America's apartheid schools, we get a full accounting of the specific ways they believe their humanity is under attack, as well as advice for what should be done to fix education policy. One of the more impactful student groups is named the Philadelphia Student Union, PSU. It was founded in 1995 by a group of young people who were concerned about not receiving the quality of education that they deserve. According to its website, the group's guiding principles are organized around the belief that not just parents and guardians, but also students themselves would have to be involved in setting policy if school reform were ever going to be successful. In the past few years, it is expanding across the country, opening chapters in New York, Chicago, and Detroit. Phil was founded in 1995. It wasn't until 2001 that the PSU began to attract widespread local and national attention as one of the leading and most vocal organizations at the forefront of the fight against the takeover and privatizations of the schools in Philadelphia. In response to mounting deficits and continued low student performance on standardized tests, the Commonwealth, as the state of Pennsylvania is often dubbed, announced it would wrest control of Philadelphia's system from local authority. In preparation, the first step state officials took was to commission a study from an educational management organization, Edison Schools. Education officials asked Edison to conduct an evaluation and to make recommendations for how to improve the educational conditions in the city. Edison's report proposed that the city's 100 lowest performing schools, as well as most central administration functions, should be taken from the city control and contracted out to a private provider. Its conclusions were hardly surprising. At the time, Edison's business model relied on managing failing or struggling schools and recommended that its company be given the job. Before Governor Mark Schweiker could proceed with these or any other recommendations, Mayor John Street negotiated with him to work out a compromise. The mayor wanted more control over the appointment of new district leadership, and in return, the deeply endorsed and eliminated the plan to turn the running of the school's district central office over to a private company and committed the state to providing the district with a one-time infusion of $75 million. What that meant was that administrative jobs were saved, though schools and students were still threatened. Working in concert with the governor, in late 2001, Street suspended educational democracy in the city and replaced the publicly elected school board with a 500-member school reform commission. Governor Schweiker appointed James Nevels, a businessman from the suburbs, as chair. Nevels immediately began implementing what became known as the diverse provider model. This meant that the commission identified 45 of the district's most troubled schools and assigned them to private providers, including Edison Inc. and others. Of course, these were the schools where children were struggling most immediately with poverty and other forms of social and economic instability. Having lost faith in the adults charged with educating them, the students themselves stood up and pushed back. The opposition to the educational plan supported by elected officials was as immediate as it was fierce. Joined by Youth United for Change, the Philadelphia Student Union staged protests, marches, candlelight vigils, and blockades of the school's district headquarters to show its opposition. The results were impressive. On November 20th, 2001, 800 students from Philadelphia gathered at the state capitol in Harrisburg for a state of protest. Their primary demand was that the governor withdraw his support for any plan involving Edison schools taking over the struggling school district of Philadelphia. According to the group's website, the students were deeply concerned because, as far as anyone outside of the company could confirm, Edison had little to no track record of success. They were also against the plan for the state to take over the school district and disband the school board. Hundreds of students walked out of class in protest of the pending takeover, and hundreds more staged a rally at both at school district headquarters and at City Hall. At the district headquarters, the students held hands and circled the entire building. This, organizers said, was to symbolize their desires to keep private companies out. Despite their efforts, planned for the state to take over the district and for Edison schools to take over 20 or so of the lowest performing schools in the districts continued apace. In response, a few weeks after their first action, more than 1,000 high school students from all over the city descended on City Hall, staying there for almost 3 hours. Building upon those earlier actions, the PSU had launched campaigns for changes on a wide variety of school issues, including school underfunding, which has left Philly students without counselors, nurses, or after-school programs, pushing back against the increase in charter schools, fighting for funding at the state level, pushing for the school reform and commission members to be elected rather than appointed so they are accountable to students and parents, school policing, and ending the school to prison pipeline. Aww. Those schools in Philadelphia were not returned to local control. One of the things that came out of all of this was that the group and its tactics expanded to other cities where similar changes were underway. This included Newark, New Jersey. Similar to students in Philadelphia, the Newark chapter of the student union rose to prominence as it refused to quietly accept the fact that the school district was under state control. The state provided what the student union believed was a lack of adequate funding for traditional community schools, preferring to fund the growth of charter schools run by free market inspired organizations or private companies using taxpayer dollars. Tanazia Brown, who in 2015 at the time of the strike was 17 years old and the secretary of the Newark Student Union, explained, "Our schools are crumbling, so we want our education to be fully funded, and that's what we're fighting for today." She added, "Some of these reformers never really think about how they may affect the students individually. They're just thinking about their personal benefit." She ended with, "I think students stepping up to the plate are showing that they do care about urban education, about their schools, and about learning through a school that helps them emotionally as well." It's been a while. I hope they're okay. Oh shit. Fuck. I'm really careful. Didn't know there was damage on that part. When asked by a reporter what she and the other students hoped to accomplish, one 17-year-old student named Olivia Owens Culver said, "Most people walk around this world thinking that they can't get nowhere. But us, as young people, we have a voice. We need to speak for ourselves." This protest ended up being one of the largest student protests in Newark's history, as students from various high schools marched while waving signs with messages like "Save our schools" and "We have rights." The group's president, 18-year-old Kristen Talkanuik, told the crowd, "We did not come here to play a game. We're done playing games with our education." As the students locked arms, Talkanuik led the crowd in a chant of, "We have a duty to fight. We have a duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains." The charges of district starvation, lobbied by students, parents, and activists, consistently point out the substandard condition of the buildings in which students are expected to learn. Today, one American city stands out in terms of the decayed and chaotic nature of both its buildings and the educations found and not found in them. That city is Detroit. The state of traditional public schools in the district offers a clear example of the rundown, underfunded apartheid educational conditions students are protesting. The buildings have decayed to the point of being unsafe. The buildings have decayed to the point of being unsafe, failing by every statistical measure, and the district is consistently threatening to cross the line from minimal solvency to outright bankruptcy. As an example of what they see as problematic, teachers, students, and parents report heating systems that do not work, leaky roofs, unsafe levels of mold, odors described as rancid, and cockroaches as long as 3 inches that scuttle about until they are squashed by a student who volunteers for the task. One teacher reported rodents out in the middle of the day like they're coming to class. In 2000, Detroit public schools had close to 100 to 1,500 students, but by 2016, that number had dipped drastically to fewer than 45,000. Following reaching decades, large numbers of people left Detroit for either the suburbs or other states. Many of those who stayed chose to enroll their children in charter schools, which more than half of school-age children from Detroit now attend. According to the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools, about 20% of school-age children in Detroit attended charter schools in 2006. By 2014, less than 10 years later, that number has shot up to 55%, and it continues to rise. The 2009 appointment of an emergency manager to take charge of the struggling school district has not turned the finances or achievement around. We're on our fourth emergency manager here, said Craig Thiel, a senior research associate for the Citizens Research Council. They each seem to be borrowing from the same playbook. Figure out a way to get through the current year and the year without going insolvent? Did I set a timer? I hope I did. Yeah, I did. Without going insolvent, and then push costs onto the next year in the hope that things will improve in some way. In order to address these feelings, many people in Detroit said they wanted a locally elected school board to make the decisions about district schools, as well as an interstate appointed emergency management. They also called for more immediate intervention to address the deteriorating state of school buildings. No voices are raised more loudly than those of the students attending the city schools. In April of 2016, at Martin Luther King Jr. High School, between 45 and 50 students walked out to protest conditions. Detroit student leaders talked to the World Socialist website about their cause. There are rodents and there is no pest control. It's either too hot or too cold. Another student added, in most of my classes, there are less than half the books we need. I have no books in world history, algebra 2, vocals, and student government. In my main structured class, physics, we have no books and have to download the material online. In response to a question about why she was out there that day, she answered, we are fighting for our education for victory. It's not just a fight for teachers, it's not just a fight for students, it's a fight for education. Ashley Ray, another Detroit student, addressed the reasons for the student protest, saying, education is the most important thing, and for anyone to try and take that from us is wrong. Though not receiving much attention, student-led movements for quality education continue to spread across the country. In Chicago and Portland, Oregon, students have joined together to form student unions. In those cities, as was true elsewhere, they did so to protest budget cuts, teacher layoffs, school closings, and high-stakes testing. The Chicago group got its start after the Chicago's teachers union strike in 2012. Then, a Chicago high school student named Israel Munoz says he began to wonder, where is the student voice in this? Why haven't we been consulted when it comes to any decisions regarding education? He began to think that if the teachers had a union, then it only made sense that students should have one too. When interviewed for an online article, Munoz and Ian Jackson of the Portland Student Union both stressed that it was important for the students to develop a voice and empower themselves if they wanted to see change come. Munoz remarked, young people are given this notion that if you want to make a change, you have to wait until you're 18 so you can be an adult and you can vote, he adds. But the reality is that somebody's age shouldn't determine whether or not they can speak out, whether or not they want to make a change, whether or not they want to organize to make that change a reality. From New York to Chicago to San Francisco, whether in relation to traditional public schools or to charter schools, students are organizing both to complain and to offer solutions and policies that they believe are more humane and go far beyond concerns with the number, use, and frequency of taking standardized tests. As one of the youth organizations in California argues on its website, the creation of a two-tiered education system has left a significant number of students with very few options for their future and essentially condemned to another generation of low-wage worker prison. They say that these inequities are perpetuated and intensified by a range of aggressive, unregulated, and biased disciplinary practices that disproportionately impact low-income Black and Latino children, thus depriving them of their fundamental right to education. Okay. Okay, let's get Ramon out of the oven. From New York to Chicago to San Francisco, whether in relation to traditional public schools or to charter school, students are organizing both to complain and to offer solutions and policies that they believe are more humane and go far beyond concerns with the number, use, and frequency of taking standardized tests. As one of the youth organizers in California argues on his website, the creation of a two-tiered education system has left a significant number of students with very few options for their future and essentially condemned to another generation of low-wage worker prison. They say that these inequities are perpetuated and intensified by a range of aggressive, unregulated, and biased disciplinary practices that disproportionately impact low-income Black and Latino children, thus depriving them of their fundamental right to education and in many cases pushing students permanently out of school and into the juvenile and criminal justice systems. One of the leading educational locations where harsh discipline takes place is in many of the free market inspired and taxpayer supported charter schools popular in poor urban school districts. Support for the damaging perspectives against which students are arguing One that advocates what is known as zero tolerance in terms of violating any expectations or school rules was summed up in April 2015 think piece written by the founder of the state Success Academy chain of charter schools, Eva S. Moskowitz. She published in her views in the Wall Street Journal. Though offering no support for her thinking, Moskowitz says she believes zero tolerance discipline policies are linked to higher learning incomes. According to our charter chain's 2012 Code of Conduct, there are over 60 infractions, including bullying, spotty attendance, dress code violations, littering, and failing to be in a ready to succeed position that might lead to a violation. Enough violations and students are suspended. Because of these policies, the suspension rate at Success Academy charter schools are almost 3 times higher than those in regular New York City K-12 public schools. Moskowitz defends her school policies, saying anyone who wants students to succeed in life should focus on better education and not on more lax discipline. She says others who support such lax policies are in opposition to scholarship and are moving in opposition to what is recommended as a best practice. However, there is a lot of scholarship, not just students, that disagrees with her. Educational researchers who study school discipline policies point out that restorative justice may substantially reduce disruptive behavior, enhance learning, promote positive school climate, and destroy the school to prison pipeline that exacerbates inequality and disadvantage for minority students. Now, Moskowitz refers to such practices as a campaign to diminish the school's discipline needed to ensure a nurturing and productive learning environment. The U.S. Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Justice, civil rights and civil liberties organizations, researchers, foundations, and advocacy coalitions all agree that suspensions and expulsions are used excessively in urban schools, often for such minor infractions as talking back, and that such practices should be reduced. Indeed, based on research conducted by a wide range of organizations such as the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, and the School Discipline Consensus Project of the Council of State Governments, it is clear that zero tolerance policies are harmful. In turn, restorative justice policies are supported by those organizations, as well as, perhaps more important, by the children who actually attend the schools. Though they have an overwhelming amount of evidence on their side, some educators and administrators nonetheless continue to utilize policies that put them at a severe disadvantage. In response, students of color attending urban schools feel the need to band together and sometimes even unionize. For them, discipline in both traditional public schools and the free market inspired public charter schools is often as negatively impactful as excessive test taking is in schools that are predominantly wealthy and contain few students who are black and Latino. Their activism is a form of self-protection. It is sorely needed. The students are getting results, if not so much in the areas of reducing testings, increasing budget allocations, or getting their districts out from under state control. They are at the forefront of making change possible for future generations in the area of harsh disciplinary measures. For example, in 2015 in Chicago, high school age activists helped to pass the state's Senate Bill 100, which prohibits schools from adopting so-called zero-tolerance disciplinary policies. Okay. I think I'll finish reading it when I'm not feeling so overwhelmed. Download Temu. I did not download Temu. I hate it when apps automatically install themselves onto your phone. Like, who said you were allowed to fucking do that? Storms possible tonight? Man, if only. Very cute. I won't lie. It's very cute to watch. I'm just really tired, but I want to keep painting. moon beds and stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna do nails, truth be told. I know I touched on some of the glue. Alright. So I've created an interesting crease color. Well, I wouldn't use it for creases per se, but it looks grayish black enough. I'm gonna add more blue. And we'll use this on the brow area, I think. a lot of touch-ups. Just a lot of touch-ups. I'm very proud of everything that I'm mixing and doing. Let's try the eyelashes. The eyebrows. Oh, that looks way more greenish green. clear. Hi, listen, we're trying to do. What happened? Yeah, we don't know. No. Aren't you doing that? Aren't you? Okay. I'm tired. I don't know what's going on up here, but I kind of like it. Oh, I'm tired. I am going to end stream. Alright, we're rating FG Moo. You guys, I'm tired. I'm gonna let everything that I painted the Lanego just dry itself out, and then I'll bake it. And, that should be it for today, unless I decide to go later today, but I'll probably go live tomorrow. Thank you so much. You guys have a good day, okay? Alright.